That is the opportunity that we see in terms of searches and capturing search traffic and actually having them become clients instead of just search traffic for search traffic's sake.
They'll send you this analysis that has all of these critical findings about how essentially your firm's invisible online and there's no way that any of the AI tools are ever going to find you, and how that's putting your firm's growth at risk.
This issue of AI websites versus more custom websites is more pressing for those higher end retail clients. Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, where we talk about growth marketing for RIAs. Today we're going to talk about websites, what should be seen as your biggest marketing asset for your firm. We're going to talk about what we've learned over the last few years. We've built, I'd say, over 25 websites, kind of from start to finish, including branding and web design and copy and web development. So we've learned quite a bit. We've definitely made mistakes that we're going to share today, like what not to do. And we're going to share some best practices of what you should be doing, like things you should be including on your website. Hopefully we'll offer some really good insight and tips for you, no matter where you are in the stage, whether you are considering a website project, you're considering dusting off the old Wix website from 1997, or if you just did a website project, this past year, you might find some things where you could kind of add to it. So that's our goal for today. And talking about websites. Some of the websites we've done have been B2B. Most have been B2C. We've done a couple for TAMPs, turnkey asset management programs. We've done an outsourced CIO website with offerings to other advisors. But what we're talking about today is mostly for RIAs across the country, variety of locations, different firm goals, different sizes of the firm, and different target personas. Like we've seen all those, we've seen it all. So like I said, we're going to try to pull from our experience and share with you. To kind of get into this, honestly, well, before I get into the details, I used to see websites as kind of a necessary evil. We used to shy away from them, frankly. It's a little bit of a tough project sometimes when websites typically go over timeline and over budget. It's like building a house. Like, if you ask 10 people how their experience was building their house, most of them complain about their contractor, how they went over budget, how they should have moved in a year ago, etc. I've kind of felt like that about websites for a long time. But then I've also come full circle where we've now focused on websites a bit more than we used to. So that's given us the impetus to put more effort into our process, to clean up some of the review cycles, to just dial it in a little bit more. So like with more volume, like I said, we've done over 25 in the last few years. We've been able to learn a lot in terms of the process and what makes it work. So today, the way we look at the website is, we see it as your firm's biggest marketing asset. We see it as a place where, referrals are going to go check you out. We see it as a place where we're going to be found through online search, through AI search. We'll get into all of that. But we believe we believe on a fundamental level that the website should serve as your biggest marketing asset. It should be a complement to your business development efforts. It should be a complement to your referral generation, to your COIs, etc. So, not to mention, it should be a complement to your client service. A lot of times our clients are using their website to kind of elevate their client service. So anyhow, I'll pause there. Faustin, talk to us about, let's start with talking about AI for websites. So how we do websites and how we look at websites in the age of AI. Now we're in May 2026. So there's a lot of AI services. There's a lot of AI opportunities for not just websites, for all kinds of different marketing. So let's talk about that first, and then that'll kind of set us up for, pros and cons.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think we titled this in our outline, acknowledge the elephant in the room, right? In 2026 is that there are more services ever that are available to, for advisors and firms to be able to AI generate pages and pages and pages of content for a very low cost. And so I think it's just important that we talk through some of the pros and cons of that approach. Definitely not our approach here at Craft. one of the first things that these different companies will do is send you this scathing analysis or report that they've done on your website. And most of the new companies are all focused on trying to be found in AI search, right? So they'll send you this analysis that has all of these like very critical issues, these critical findings about how essentially your firm's invisible online, and there's no way that anything like ChatGPT or Google AI overviews or Perplexity or Gemini or any of the AI tools are ever going to find you, and how that's putting your firm's growth at risk. So why shouldn't you just do this? So let's just talk about the pros and cons. Like, we're trying to attach this. Obviously, we're biased since we do these websites, right? But want to talk through just some pros, some positive things for why you might want to do it. The first is just like the biggest pro that we see is just low cost, low time. As Stephen, you said earlier on that website projects always go over time and budget. And that's not just with our agency. That's any firm that comes to you that's just completed a website project. They always say, we don't want to try that again, right? Because they're feeling the effects of this, back and forth to get this big project over the finish line. So this would be the big pro of using one of these AI generated website tools, is that, you pay less. You don't have to spend as much time. You can generate page after page after page without putting in as much effort. And isn't that the case with everything AI related nowadays, right? So that's like the first thing. And I think, Stephen, we had talked about, for depending on the size and scale of your current operation, right? Like, makes perfect sense for a solo advisor, right? Who's like trying to get off the ground, maybe someone who's transitioning from one of the wirehouses and doesn't have the ability to take a lot of their clients with them. This pro might be one of the biggest reasons that someone at that stage would be able to take the leap and build a site pretty quickly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Say you're a younger advisor, or you're breaking away, or right now you don't have the budget to spend on, an agency like us, or a larger group or something. Biggest pro would be, how cheap it is and how fast it is. These things are really quick. Like you said, anything with AI, you can put your website URL, you can put your existing content in there. It might take you, a couple of hours to spin up a basic version of a website. So I think depending on where you are in your journey as an advisor or as a firm, it could definitely make sense. If you, like I said, if you don't have the time or the budget, it's the old saying, like, kind of, good, cheap, or fast. Good, cheap, and fast. You can pick two. In this case, you're picking cheap and fast. So that's kind of how we look at it.
Another pro that these newer groups, these newer companies are putting out there is just that your firm's going to be better optimized for AI search, right? So these reports, these analyses show, hey, like, here's some things you can put in the code, or here's some ways that you should title your page, or here's some things you should put in the actual page content itself so that you can better show up on AI search. So I just want to acknowledge that's a pro, at least in the way that the companies are presenting themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. The biggest pro, other than time and money, I would say, that you can save, is that it gives you the speed to be able to test things. So 100%, like testing new markets, testing new personas, testing new locations, gives you the ability to create pages in a way that you normally wouldn't have been able to do before. So let's say that you're like, hey, let's just test out, we want to move up market, but there might be a good opportunity for these mid 30s to mid 45-year-olds in this San Carlos, California market around tech professionals. We don't really have a great location there, but we're thinking about maybe moving out an advisor team. Let's just throw up some pages pretty quickly, test it out, and see if we get any bites. I think it gives you the ability to do that in a way that we've never had access to before, right?
Yeah. Nice.
So that's a real pro of using these AI tools, is that you can spin something up in a couple of hours, start getting bites if you know all the right things to submit to Google, and so you can get index, and then the LLMs, and make sure you have your robots text and your all this stuff on the back end, and you can really get something up quickly. And that's probably the biggest pro, I would say, Stephen, other than the time and cost, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's if you, like you said, if you're trying to test the market before fully committing to it, maybe just as a hypothetical, might be a good use case. All right, let's go into some of the cons.
Okay, so some of the cons really comes in, and we were discussing this before, just like based on the size and the goals of your firm, right? 300 million to about 700 million. is where a lot of advisors come to us, right? They have a partner that they've been building the firm with. They're really getting into like the scalability phase. We also have firms that come to us at the billion, 2 billion, 3 billion level. And what they're really trying to do is move up market a lot of times, right? Move up to the 2 million, 3 million, 5 million and up prospects. They want to spend less time as partners, as leaders, working with the smaller fish that come in, right? That have much less in assets. And I think that is really one of the biggest cons that we're going to see is that, and that we're going to highlight is that the AI websites feel and look and sound all pretty similar, right? It's still novel right now, but the more Claude built website pages you see, the more you can instantly recognize that it's all just like Claude branded, right? I'm reminded a lot of the early days of ChatGPT with people, and they could spin up LinkedIn posts faster than you ever would have imagined, or blog articles ever than you would have imagined. And like everyone was doing it, right? And everyone was encouraged to do it, all the marketing groups. And now those people are looked at, if they still do it, as complete AI slop. No one would ever read those posts ever again, right? It's people instantly detect it if they're on social media. And I think about this a lot in terms of these AI built websites. The more that people adopt them, the more quickly we're going to start to associate firms and brands from a credibility perspective with that sort of slop mentality, that slop perspective. And I think that for the firms that are really trying to move up market and trying to make that incredible first impression, I think that is the biggest con of throwing something up there and accepting that as your new website, is that you do not have the ability to make the impression that you want, which is everything in marketing, even if it's coming just from a referral. You don't have that ability to make that impression because they're going to see the exact same thing down the road from another RIA or from another solo advisor, anyone else that has utilized one of these tools to throw something up in a quick and dirty fashion. Stephen, what would you add to that?
Yeah, that's a strong take. I like it. Yeah, we're not saying that all AI is slop, or that, that you can't create good AI copy and then come in with a human touch and fix it. But that's what we've had to learn is, you can't just hit a button and then it spins up content and then you publish it. Or the firms that have done that, yeah, they've seen repercussions. They've kind of put their reputation on the line in terms of like credibility with, especially with these clients that are, like you said, 1, 2, $10 million clients. They're more complex and they have different needs and they're looking for a certain type of brand. And whether you realize that or not, we think that in our take is that design and copy and the first impression and then the continued impressions after that all really matter when you're competing for these bigger clients. You're competing against other firms that are similar in size to you or even bigger. So how are you going to stand out versus those firms? And it's part of human psychology. You have to let your brand look and feel a certain way to that ideal client. So to us, it's still necessary to kind of have that human touch of a really talented web designer, especially for these groups that are bigger. So again, like we're working with, most of our clients are 300 million to 2 billion in assets, right? So it could be different if you're outside of that range. But for our clients, like you said, and then for their clients, they're going after these more sophisticated, retail investors. And so the brand needs to match that. And it can be hard with the AI driven websites to really differentiate because they're not meant to differentiate from the brand perspective. They're meant to just get something done quickly and on the cheap. So yeah, that's kind of how we're looking at it. Similar to, I guess, say you're an advisor with your firm is $1 billion in assets. Your target market is somebody who has $5 million in investable assets. They have complex, planning and tax needs. Those people, like what our belief is, those people aren't really most of those people aren't looking for a robo advisor, right? Because they understand that's not the right fit for them. we look at it the same way. You can't service those people with a robo advisor. You can't resonate with those people with a robo website or an AI generated website if it's going to be like fully AI generated. There's definitely pieces where we can use AI to flesh out the website, to help us build it, to develop more pages, to develop more content quickly, that kind of thing. But those people aren't looking for the robo advisor the same way they're not looking for the AI website. They can smell that from a mile away. So that's how we're looking at it for these kind of like higher level clients. We think this issue of AI websites versus more custom websites is more pressing for those kind of higher end retail clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really, really well said. I mean, we're not advocating for going completely from scratch, no AI tools at all, right? When you're building the site. And we've sped up things a lot ourselves in that process, which has been fantastic. There just has to be the human element of going back and forth, of thinking through how each section of the site, as somebody's scrolling down, is what's that entire experience like for someone? Does it elevate the brand? Does it match the level of sophistication that you're going to be able to provide on the planning level that's going to bring that sophisticated client over the edge to be able to book a call with you? And then compared to the 2 or 3 other tabs that they have up from other firms that they're also comparing to, right? That's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about the options available out there seem great, but it's just like anything in life that you get more for what you pay for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And even in the world of AI, that still holds true.
I want to go back to something you said earlier. I lost my train of thought earlier, but now it just came back to me. So I don't know. I need more coffee or whatever. A lot of people, you said something about this. A lot of people have had poor experiences with website projects. Like I said, they
Yeah.
generally go over time and over budget. There's like PTSD there. A lot of times I talk to people every day. They're like, "Oh my God, we just did a website project like 3 years ago. Like I don't want to touch it again for the next 10 years. Like it was such a pain. It was just
Yeah.
so much heartache, whatever." And we hear that a lot. So just if you're nodding your head to that, it was hard to get everyone on the same page. It was hard to find alignment on branding or on copy or on the experience on the website. You are not alone. And so, yes, if your firm is the right size, or if you're a solo advisor maybe, and you're just trying to spin something up quick and cheap, perfect. Like an AI tool could definitely be a good fit. I think for us, for our website process now has been dialed in over the years, where we've gotten a lot better at getting, all the cooks that are in the kitchen, like getting them aligned, finding the center line, finding the balance there, and driving the project forward. And just want to clarify now, not all of our website projects go over time and over budget. So I just want to like throw that out there that,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have gotten a lot better, and we can hold your hand through the process. It is going to cost more because what we're doing is custom, and because we have talented people, frankly, and we've done it before. We kind of know what to look for, what to avoid. But anyhow, there is hope out there for future website projects, whether it's done with AI or whether it's done, with a group like us. I think just hold out hope that not all website projects have to go over time and over budget. So I just want to throw that in there
Yeah, that's
for
a good call.
posterity's sake. Okay.
All right, so let's go back to the pro, I think, of some of the newer AI driven projects, right? This whole idea of being found on AI search. There's definitely something to be learned in some of these audits that we're finding, especially sites that we built over the last couple of years. There's updates and whatnot that need to be made based on, one of the big things is just the schema that is so important nowadays for LLMs, just in kind of understanding quickly the nuances of each of the pages. It sort of like reports back to the LLMs as they're sort of categorizing the information, and you give yourself a better chance of sort of showing up for particular questions and prompts that are in like ChatGPT or even like the Google AI overviews. The FAQs are a big one here that we're adding to a lot of our client website pages, just so that you can like quickly try to anticipate what they might be prompting in terms of a question and then be able to give a quick answer. So there is some good stuff to be learned there. But I will say there's so much of an emphasis. Again, like it just goes back a little bit to what we were just talking about. It's such a huge emphasis on being found in AI search. Like there's such a push right now from the I don't even want to call it the marketing community, because it's more of like the vendor community in the advisory, the financial services space, that is making it the number one thing that anyone should care about as it relates to marketing. Is just being found, just being a brand that shows up. And I just want to point out that website builds before AI, it's always been about striking the right balance of being found, or like the searchability aspect, and then what the design or user experience and the functionality is like. Google's tried to say that user experience contributes and will be rewarded with top rankings on the websites themselves, but that doesn't always play out, right? So you just have to make sure that you keep in mind that there is a balance there. It can't just all be about being found, because it's one thing to get people on your site. It's another thing, as we were just saying, Stephen, to really resonate and connect with them and actually get them to take an action to convert. Not to mention comparing like tab to tab, but you actually, once they get on the site, it needs to speak to them. It doesn't just need to speak to the robots that got them found in the first place.
Yeah.
Kind of a concrete example of this is your headers, especially if you know anything about coding of websites. Like the H1 header on any given page is a really good indicator, as it lines up with the title, of exactly how the search engines are going to categorize and index it, and then be able to show it to people that are searching. And that H1 header, if it has keywords, like in our case, financial advisor or financial planning or wealth management, it gives you a higher likelihood of showing up for those types of searches, right? But you have to balance that with like what the experience is like for the prospect or for the visitor when they get on the page itself. It can't just be loaded with those types of keywords. It has to speak directly to them. So it's like this constant sort of continuum of trying to figure out, okay, can we get that word in there so it better resonates with the search engines? But then also we want to make sure it's directed right at their challenges so that they can, feel like they can take the next action. So all those decisions, those nuances of that sort of conversation, that's just with the first header. That happens all throughout the site, all throughout all the pages, because actually what people are reading on the site and the experience on the site matters more, in my opinion, than just showing up, right, as a brand in a response on the LLM or on a Google search. Does that make sense? Sort of like trying to strike that balance.
Honestly, this reminds me of old school keyword stuffing. If anybody can remember the early days of SEO, you used to be able to rank in the top 10 or specifically the top 3 results of Google searches. You used to be able to kind of game the system before Google was smart enough to update their algorithms, where you would just stuff your keywords into the back end of your website, and that would get you to rank and get people to click through to your website even. But then what do they do once they get there? The firms that did that were just kind of, it's like penny wise, pound foolish. It's like you get there, but then now you haven't thought about what's going to happen once people get to the website, or even who those people are that you're capturing with the keyword stuffing. In this case, we're talking about not exactly keyword stuffing, but copy that may not be super personalized and super relevant to your exact target market. It's more built for LLMs than it is built for a person, a human. So it is this balance, like just like you said, we're just like anything in life. We're trying to strike this balance here, between what are we doing, or what are we building our websites for? Bots or humans or both? Like right now, we're kind of in this. To us, we're more so building our websites for humans, but we know that in the future there's going to be more and more traffic that is being driven to our websites from bots, and that's fine. And we got to position ourselves to do that. But then, what happens when the human gets there, and they're kind of checking you out? That is really, really important, especially in this wealth management space. That's the other thing. These aren't, I think we'll be a few years away, well, maybe not even a few years. We'll be pretty close to where bots are talking to bots, right? My agent is going to go out and find the SaaS product that I want based on my criteria, and it comes back to me. It basically goes out, and now it's like searching through all the other content that's all formed by bots and formed by other AI agents, and it comes back to me with a report. Okay, so we're not far away from that. But in this space, like with humans and relationships and millions of dollars at stake, We are, like I said, right now, we're still thinking human first, bot second. So call us old school. I don't know. But what we're trying to do is position ourselves right for the future. But we're striking this balance of, yeah, the experience when a human comes to the website. Because let's get into some of the data. We understand that right now, people are using Google search and traditional search way more than AI search tools. Like we just got another Datos traffic report surveying millions of desktop search queries across the United States and Europe. And they found again that search traffic, the actual search traffic, like people searching, where they're searching online for ChatGPT is still less than how often they would use Bing, for example. So this is like shocking to most people because all the rage is about AI search, AI tools, the millions of people who are using these AI tools every day and how fast that's growing and so on and so forth. But we still know traffic wise, it still represents a very small portion of a website or of internet traffic. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. We have that data and we know kind of like context behind it. So that all is important because when we are talking about Google itself, what is actually going to work when people are using a Google tool to find a financial advisory firm? Maybe they're switching, or maybe they're trying to find a new one. We see things like high Google reviews, good 5-star Google reviews being prioritized. We have a client just this week. In 2 days, they had four good leads. Two of them already became clients through Google local search. So that is, they said one person came in. They basically said, "I have 250 grand that I want to roll over. How do I do it? I'm ready to go." The next person called and said, "I have $800,000. I'm ready to become a client." Perfect. So that's in 2 days. That's without us, paying for ads for local Google searches. It's because they have over 100 5-star reviews and they're very well ranked for the local area. So that works. But what we know is you're not going to rank on Google for national searches for the most part, unless you've completely gone in on a specific niche and you've spent a lot of time and effort to build out your website focusing on that. You're not going to rank for traditional versus Roth RIA or RIA, traditional versus Roth IRA, right? Or 401k. It's just that's already been taken. These huge domains like NerdWallet and Forbes and all these other places, they've already dominated that, and you're not going to rank for that. You do have a good chance for localized searches. So for the financial advisor in this city, the financial advisor near me, the wealth management near me, you have Google local service ads showing up at the top with the person's thumbnail or headshot image, and it's kind of prompting you to make the phone call. That's at the top. Those are paid, and then you kind of see a list of businesses and the map that shows you like where these financial advisors are near you, and that is kind of the opportunity that we see in terms of searches and capturing search traffic and actually having them become clients instead of just search traffic for search traffic's sake. These are humans that are coming in that are looking for somebody like you as this financial advisor, that somebody that can help them, and that's what we're trying to optimize for at Craft. So anyhow, let's keep the humans in mind, at least for now. We'll keep them at the forefront. Foster, what else would you add to that? What I just was talking about with local search?
Yeah, I would say just a few things that we're saying to include on your website pages to try to show up in those local Google search queries. Title. It's so funny, like the title tag, just having something related to financial advisor, financial planning, fee-only fiduciary seems to do really well, both for Google responses, but also for the LLMs. And then calls out your specific location, especially if you have a headquarters in a local area, to really call that out, right? So I'm in Columbus, Ohio right now. I would definitely, if I started a firm here, make sure the Columbus OH is in the title tag, and then weave in that name. And if you do serve specific niches, right? If you serve a particular type of client, that's also a key component to make sure that you're weaving in as part of your location. Because as you said, right, like people looking for those localized searches, those are the things that end up being returned. So the Google reviews are definitely like the top priority we see for the AI tools as well. We're seeing a direct connection between if you put a lot of work into your Google business profile to show up for those searches, how you optimize your website with those title tags, with the content spread throughout your pages that references, you as an advisor, you as a fee-only fiduciary, and also some of the types of personas that you serve, you're going to also give yourself a higher likelihood of showing up inside of the LLMs, like what people are searching for in ChatGPT, what people are searching for per like Perplexity. And we saw that confirmed again in the Gregory report, where one of the big takeaways that we had, Stephen, was, if you serve Nashville business owners or if you serve Tampa tech professionals, the more you can call that out on specific pages that you do that, the higher of a likelihood that you're going to show up in those LLMs, right? But think about ChatGPT. It knows the individual that's searching. They're going to type in the localized search. They're going to say, hey, I need to find an advisor in Tampa. A lot of times they won't even know to put that they're a tech professional, right? But the LLMs are going to understand that based on the memory and go out and look for an advisor in Tampa that also serves tech professionals, right? Because it's going to classify them as professionals. So that's like one of the big opportunities, but I think you can win that through AI search in a lot of ways by optimizing for those local Google business profiles. So one exception I would say, that we've learned over the last year are those FAQ schema, those different schema parts of the code that you can put in the header section of the website. That's the way I think to best get the most traction from these digital localized searches. But again, it's traffic. If they get there and it doesn't speak to them, they're going to go somewhere else. And so we're not saying that LLM visibility and structuring your pages in such a way that LLMs can, index and figure out more information is not important. It is important.
If you want to be reflected in a positive light in the way that your brand should be reflected within the AI tool, once you are being compared, like a little bit further down the process here, once you're being compared, let's say, go back to that example of somebody who gets three referrals. They pull up your website and competitor A and competitor B. They ask ChatGPT to give them a full breakdown, pros and cons, specialties of you versus A versus B. Pricing information. They might ask about your fee structure. They might ask about your investment philosophy. They might ask all these different things. Yes, obviously we have to optimize for that. We have to create for that so that we show up in the right way inside the LLMs, and then paired with their experience when they come to the website should all be laid out for them right there, where they're like, we want them to be like nodding their head, be like, yep, okay, nice, these guys are for me, that kind of thought. We'll share more in a future episode, or you can check out our website for some more resources on kind of best practices and a checklist for things to include in your website to solve for the human, to solve for the bots, to position yourself for the next 2 to 5 years. So hopefully you found this episode helpful. If you'd like to review what this would look like for your firm, then please get in touch with us. You can send a contact form on our website. If you like the episode, please subscribe and give us a good rating. That helps other advisors find us and listen to us. And we'll be back with more soon. Thank you so much.